Welcome to Photo Finds. I am your host Kevin, and this week we are back in the parks. And we're beginning at the Magic Kingdom. This is the monorail pylon where there's been some newish kind of equipment installed underneath. Not sure exactly what these power cables are for, but it's probably related to the ongoing process to modernize and automate the monorails so that they'll be dispatched like any other ride at Walt Disney World, really. There'll still be a pilot on board, but they won't be actively starting and stopping each vehicle unless they're doing an override. This process has been done to a few of the monorails, but it's still in testing, so they're not actually using them yet. We are also here looking at the Haunted Mansion standby line, which, as you see, has been added this sign because now there's a FastPass Plus option. The FastPass Plus is good and ready, so to speak, in the parks. And this has the immediate ramification that that optional line through the longer queue is now everybody's line unless you have the FastPass Plus entrance. So this is no longer just something you can choose either way. Switching over to Disney's Animal Kingdom, here's a look from that bridge on the very first transition from the Oasis into Discovery Island. You'll see that the Once Upon a Time boat dock landing, which has been used for character greetings for many years, now has a bit of a wall put up behind it so that the characters are a little bit more shielded in case it rains. On Discovery Island, one of the snack stands is displaying a new drink, the frozen mango rum lemonade. In fact, we saw another one somewhere with blueberry, and this is what that stand looks like. So they're obviously experimenting with different kinds of frozen drinks and frozen drinks with alcohol in Animal Kingdom. We have previously shown you the Adventurers Outpost, the Mickey and Minnie greeting area in Animal Kingdom that has moved away from the Camp Minnie Mickey area into this former shop. What I have not done was given you extensive pictures of what it looks like on the inside. And so I've shown you, I think, a couple of these shots you see when you first get in the line. It's about a 30-minute line winding its way through these small corridors here, and you see these photos along the walls, and they're all sort of world visitation sites, heritage sites, UNESCO sites, that sort of thing, and they all feature Mickey and Minnie, though perhaps you can tell from this shot in particular, the shadow looks just a little bit off, and you can tell that these are in fact photoshopped into place with Mickey and Minnie. So it's an interesting attempt to save just a little bit of money, but it looks fine. It looks a little bit cartoonish perhaps, but Mickey and Minnie themselves, of course, are cartoons, so maybe this is to be expected. I particularly like this one. It looks like a photo of Minnie, but there's a hidden Mickey poking around the corner, so to speak. I think we'll come back to that in a second. There it is, the hidden Mickey poking his head around the corner. So after you make your way through a second corridor, then you come to the room itself, which has these decorations on the side, and Mickey and Minnie waiting for you with the PhotoPass operator around the corner from there. These are what the decorations look like. It's a bunch of Dinoland and Asia stuff, trying to really impress that these are part of a complete ecosystem of being inside the theme park, and so they've got reminders basically of other things throughout the park, Cirque Zong and things from Expedition Everest in Asia, Dinoland, Boneyard, and so forth. And then this further references some things in the parks, Boma being the eatery at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. Here's what it looks like if you're going to meet Mickey and Minnie, and then we asked our famous mascots to step out of the frame, an unusual moment that made the photographer laugh, so we could take a picture of the backdrop. And of course there's a hidden Mickey in the backdrop itself. There you are. And not too obvious that there's any other hidden things in that map. Well, maybe there are, however. Now this is a bathrooms building, which is right next to the entrance to Dinoland. It was previously blue, and it is now a more realistic color, kind of a brown or beige color. Actually kind of looks a little bit like the buildings you'll find at Busch Gardens Tampa, which was once called Busch Gardens Africa. Switching parks over to Epcot, there are a couple of these planters, really. They're not planters, they're these like things to sit on, really, that are holding up pylons for the support structure overhead, and they've long been the sort of place where people will run around. You can see in the background there and in the background here they've installed planters so that people don't run on them anymore. So I know from having kids, and my own kids will run on those if left to their own devices. Now this is a snack stand ODV cart, outdoor vending cart, that has been vacated for some time and recently reopened now. So you can see they've solved whatever internal problem they were having with power and drainage. And we are here next to the Imagination Pavilion, where you will see a sign for Soarin' and a backstage path leading somewhere. So we'll get into that a little bit more, but we first step backstage here, right next to the Imagination bathrooms. It's this corner I want to call your attention to. On the ground, you'll see Figment carved in the concrete, and this was carved by the original walk-around dream finder, Ron Schneider, when the concrete was still wet, and the E was backwards in Figment because he figured that's what Figment would do. So let's follow this backstage path around. You see all these trees lined around, and it's been there for a couple of weeks until we discover the reason for it. There is an escalator out, and it's been out for several weeks, next to Living with the Land, the boat ride. And so they've got it all covered up, and they've got this doorway open next to the restrooms. Soarin' is off to our right, and that doorway leads back the way we just came. Here's the reverse view of what we just saw, and the Soarin' building in the background there. Back on our way back over to the left here to the Imagination Building, and then this is where we started our little tour. I do want to call your attention a little bit to this zone. So the Figment carving is on the ground to the right here. This is not something you get to see often unless you've been a cast member. A little safety reminder and a mirror. So normally these gates are closed. Let's go back one shot. These gates are closed, and there's kind of a back and forth. You'd go through here, and the cast members would go out this way, and they'd come across themselves in the mirror before they go around that last corner and go on stage. So this is one of the ways they would verify that people are looking their best before they go on stage. Couple of shots of merchandise while we're here in Epcot. The Planes merchandise has begun to show up in the stores despite the movie not being out yet. And then this t-shirt, which I thought was great for certain kids of a certain age. Although I guess it's such a small size, I'm not sure they can actually ride all of these attractions that are pictured on that t-shirt. Couple more t-shirts that caught my eye, and then we're switching back over to the Magic Kingdom again. Now this is a shot from the monorail of the bus loop that is under construction outside of the Magic Kingdom bus area. So they'll have an additional loop located here where you can catch additional buses. And then I was fortunate enough to see this bus on its way into the Magic Kingdom, honoring the Phineas and Ferb Marvel episode that is being hyped by the company. And so what we have here is an instance where they're not just wrapping monorails, now they're wrapping buses as well to form a kind of rolling advertisement of some of their products. Now, where we are here is at the exit to the train in Frontierland, and I almost never get off at this end of the platform. I always get off at the other end. So the pictures I'm about to show you have been there since day one. I've just never really noticed them since they're high up along that walkway. So going back to the pictures I'm showing you here are along the top of this railing here, and you can see them when you're walking down here, a little less well when you're walking through here. So I kind of stopped and took a picture of all of them, not because there's anything new or particularly exciting about them, but just because I've never really noticed them before, and it's a kind of hidden little detail that I've not really seen, and I thought it added a little lens a little realism to the area. Clearly that's what they're going for by having wanted posters. Now, I've previously also shown you some pictures of the Jack Sparrow interactive game. What I haven't shown you is the inside of the shop, which used to be called the Crow's Nest, where they now issue you those maps. And so when you step inside, you see this large assembly of maps on the left side. There are things like maps and rolled up cartography stuff over on the tops over here. You can see some additional ones over there. And then these triangles and so cartography tools really scattered around as well. And then 3 of these interactive stations. And these are the maps themselves. Take a closer look at that in a second. The interactive station asks how many people are in your party, and you have to scan in your using your RFID card, your admission card, onto the Starfish is how you start. Here are the 5 different maps. You're supposed to only take one at a time and only do one journey at a time, and then you can always come back here and get another journey. Now, in our case, we were able to finish in just 3 simple moves. So I guess it depends on how crowded it is. How that will determine how long your experience is. So here's an example of one of the maps, and if you close up on a few of those, you'll see that there are messages from Captain Jack Sparrow about some of the specific tasks awaiting us. Over to Fantasyland, where the carousel is behind refurbishment walls all the way around. And these folks who are walk-around entertainment in Fantasyland, they've been there since New Fantasyland has been open. I just have never snapped a photo of them before. And as you can tell, the mountain behind the walls has begun to take on new paint. So these were previously gray rocks. This is now apparently the color that the rocks are going to be, kind of a more earthen color, of course, Peering in through our usual spot into the window, you can see that the coloring has long been there on the ground, has now been added to the front as well. Parts of the mountain still haven't even been sculpted, let alone given concrete and painted. So it's many different features all happening at the same time. We have a series of shots. We're going to zoom in on this section of the drop. There's a little bit of zoom there and even more zoom here. Obviously they've taken what looks like mined timbers that was sculpted in concrete and now painted it to look even more like wood. I think it'd be great if they put like a little hidden Mickey or hidden Nautilus, since this is close to the 20,000 Leagues area, and painted it over the top here for those of us with gigantic zoom cameras. That's not going to happen. So the backside village, which is meant to line up with the Little Mermaid, and the Snow White area, kind of being a joint theme in that area, coming along, got more of its walls and rooftops in place. And then we're switching over to Tomorrowland. This is the arcade at the exit to Space Mountain. And if you're seeing what I'm seeing, it's a charging station where they've got some benches laid out against the wall and some chairs, as you can see there, and quite a number of sockets where you can plug in your electronic devices and just have a seat for a little while you recharge your phones. Now, what they've also done in this arcade area, this used to be the home of the Pac-Man air hockey, which features, that's the game with a million pucks, it seems like, falling down on you at the same time. They moved the skee ball machines, and they've made them electronic, actually, so they've added new ones over to this side and moved the hockey puck game over here. Many of those windows, those circular windows along the left side here, have been opened up completely, and they've got fewer things in general out there. New magnets, at least new to me magnets, Orange Bird being one of them, with some things having to do with Snow White and her forest friends, so character ones, and then also several having to do with the attractions, or former attractions posters as magnets. New to me iPhone cases, iPhone 4S or 4 or an S, the monorail, and this is a different, they've had a castle, but I thought this was somehow a different design this time around. And in the Emporium, you'll notice that this one exit has been blocked off and the exit sign covered over. That's because there's some construction walls going on around the outside there for a refurbishment that's going on as we speak. There's also a refurbishment going on in the Tiki Room. It didn't include any photos, where they've got half of the room walled off while they replace benches, and they keep the operation running in the meantime. These are kiosks for My Magic Plus, FastPass Plus, as you can see, in City Hall. Go back an image, you can see that we are in City Hall, and this is a central place where you can make additional reservations. There's a few others like those where there are also FastPass machines. A monorail shot on the way out will reveal construction. This is the Wilderness Lodge, construction of a large hotel in the background. As you zoom in, you'll perhaps recognize, gosh, you don't know what that is. Well, that is the Four Seasons, which is not really accessible by road at the moment, and so a few people have made the trek over there to see what it looks like. But it is going to be a massive hotel. Speaking of which, here's a view of the DVC outside of the Grand Floridian, now looking quite a bit like the Grand Floridian in terms of color and scope. Here's the front view of it with its carport, and then here's a view of that same building but from across the lagoon, so taking the monorail all the way across. And you can see from this angle, it basically looks finished. And speaking of finished, that does it for us for another week. We thank you as always for your attention, and we will catch you next time.